Time is the one thing we can never get back. As Seneca once wrote, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your day is spent on things that truly matter? The Stoics understood something that many of us overlook. Time is our most valuable resource, yet we often squander it on distractions, trivial concerns, and things beyond our control. In this video, we're diving into the 10 things Stoics refuse to waste their time on, and why adopting this mindset can transform not just how you live, but how you approach each moment. So, if you've ever felt like your days are slipping away faster than you'd like, stay with me. You might just discover the tools to reclaim your time and focus on what really counts. Do you ever catch yourself replaying old mistakes in your mind, wishing you could go back and do things differently? Maybe it's a career decision you regret making or a relationship you wish you had handled better. These thoughts can feel like an unshakable weight pulling you away from the here and now. But the Stoics believed that dwelling on the past is one of the most unproductive ways we can spend our time. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The past is gone, and no amount of regret or rumination can alter it." The only thing within our control is how we choose to perceive it. Imagine this: you're walking through your day, but instead of paying attention to the tasks in front of you, your mind keeps drifting back to a moment when you failed an important exam or missed a major opportunity. You might think, if only I had worked harder, I wouldn't be in this position now. Sound familiar? This mindset doesn't just drain your energy, it prevents you from fully engaging with the life you're living right now. The Stoics remind us that the past, no matter how painful or disappointing, is simply a collection of events. What gives those events power over us is the meaning we attach to them. Here's a modern example to consider. Let's say you made a career choice a few years ago that didn't pan out the way you hoped. Maybe you took a job that seemed promising, but it didn't align with your goals, and now you feel stuck. You might find yourself obsessing over that decision, thinking, if only I had chosen differently, I'd be in a better place today. But what the Stoics teach us is that this kind of thinking only prolongs our suffering. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, they encourage us to redirect our attention to what we can do now to move forward. What lessons did that experience teach you? How can you use that knowledge to make better decisions today? Shifting your focus to the present moment doesn't mean ignoring the past or pretending those regrets don't exist. It means accepting the past for what it is: a teacher, not a jailer. Marcus Aurelius believed that while we cannot change what has already happened, we have the power to determine how it shapes us. By changing our perspective, we can transform regret into growth and action. So take a moment and ask yourself, what would happen if you let go of the weight of the past? Could you show up more fully in the present? Could you channel your energy into things that actually matter right now? The next time you catch yourself dwelling on something you can't change, remember, your power lies not in rewriting the past, but in choosing how you move forward. Epictetus once said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." This single teaching captures a foundational principle of Stoic philosophy: the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. Yet, how often do we find ourselves doing the exact opposite? Complaining about the weather, grumbling over traffic, or venting frustration about someone else's behavior. But here's the harsh truth: the time and energy we spend lamenting these external events do absolutely nothing to change them. Imagine this common scenario: you're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, 20 minutes late for an appointment. You keep glancing at the clock, your fingers tapping impatiently on the steering wheel, and you mutter under your breath, "Why is there always traffic when I need to be somewhere?" Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, did that complaint make the cars move faster? Did it improve your situation in any way, or did it simply leave you feeling more stressed and frustrated? The Stoics would argue that this kind of reaction is not only futile but also harmful. Why? Because it focuses our attention on things completely outside of our control, things like traffic, the weather, or the actions of others. Instead of obsessing over what we cannot change, the Stoics believed we should redirect that energy toward what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes. In the case of the traffic jam, while you can't make the cars disappear, you can control how you respond. Maybe use the time to listen to an audiobook you've been meaning to finish, or take a few deep breaths to center yourself. The key is realizing that your peace of mind doesn't have to be dictated by outside circumstances. Here's another simple example. Think about how many times you've heard someone complain about the weather. Ugh, it's raining again, or it's way too hot today. But no matter how much you groan about the rain or the heat, the weather won't suddenly change to accommodate your preferences. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, the Stoics would encourage us to approach the situation with acceptance. If it's raining, grab an umbrella and find beauty in the sound of the drops hitting the ground. If it's a scorching day, take it as an opportunity to slow down and appreciate the shade. Complaining adds nothing to these situations except unnecessary negativity. So here's a question for you to reflect on. How much of your day is spent complaining about things you can't control? Is it a few minutes, an hour, or maybe more? And what would happen if you used that time and energy differently? What if, instead of wishing things were different, you shifted your focus to making the best of the way things are? Ultimately, the Stoics weren't advocating for passivity or resignation. They weren't saying you should accept poor circumstances without ever trying to improve them. Instead, they taught that we should act where change is possible and practice acceptance where it isn't. This mindset shifts our focus from feeling like victims of our circumstances to becoming active participants in our lives. So, the next time you find yourself complaining about something as trivial as traffic or the weather, stop and ask yourself, does this deserve my time and energy? And more importantly, is this something I can change, or is it time to let it go? By learning to focus only on what's within our control, we can free ourselves from the frustration and stress that often come with trying to control the uncontrollable. Why should the opinion of others rule your life? It's a bold question, but one that strikes at the heart of a common struggle. We often expend so much time and energy seeking approval from others, whether it's through our actions, our words, or even our curated online personas. The Stoics, however, would ask us to pause and reconsider. Why are we letting something so fleeting, so utterly outside of our control, dictate how we live? Marcus Aurelius put it simply, you have to realize that the praise of others is never worth pursuing. And he's right. The opinions of others may come and go, but your sense of self should remain steady and unshaken. Let's take a modern example. Think about the time you've spent posting on social media. Maybe it's carefully choosing the perfect photo, crafting a witty caption, or endlessly refreshing your notifications to see how many likes, comments, or shares you've received. In that moment, your mood might rise and fall with the opinions of others, whether they approve of your post, validate your effort, or even notice at all. It's easy to feel an emotional high from their approval, but it's just as easy to feel deflated or even rejected when the response doesn't match your expectations. The Stoics would argue that this kind of dependence on external validation is a trap. Why? Because it places your sense of worth in something you can never fully control, the perceptions of others. Imagine a life where the opinions of others don't carry so much weight. Picture yourself making decisions not based on what will impress someone else, but on what aligns with your values and goals. This is the essence of Stoic self-reliance. The Stoics believed that true contentment comes from within, from being guided by your own reason and principles rather than the shifting and unreliable judgments of others. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of how insignificant and impermanent other people's opinions truly are. He observed that most people are so consumed by their own worries, their own struggles, and their own fleeting concerns that their thoughts about you are rarely as deep or meaningful as you might imagine. In fact, what someone thinks of you today could change completely tomorrow. So why invest your energy into something so unstable and fleeting? But let's be honest, this isn't always easy. Approval seeking is deeply ingrained in us, often from childhood. We're conditioned to seek validation from parents, teachers, peers, and eventually colleagues or even strangers. The key, though, is not to eliminate connection or feedback from others. It's to shift your focus from approval to authenticity. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I believe it's right, or because I want someone to notice or applaud me? When you start filtering your actions through this question, you'll quickly see where external validation may be driving you more than you realized. So here's something to reflect on. How much of your time is spent worrying about what others think of you? Is it in the decisions you make, the things you say, or even the goals you pursue? How often do you hesitate or hold back because you fear judgment? And what would your life look like if you allowed yourself to let go of that? If you focused instead on living in accordance with your values without being weighed down by the fleeting opinions of others? The beauty of the Stoic mindset is that it empowers you to take back control. It reminds you that your worth isn't defined by someone else's approval, but by how true you are to yourself. When you let go of the need for external validation, you free up your energy and time for what truly matters: your growth, your purpose, and the relationships that add genuine value to your life. So, what's stopping you from stepping off the treadmill of approval and embracing the freedom of self-reliance? Death is not to be feared, but to be understood. This simple yet profound idea lies at the core of the Stoic approach to mortality. To the Stoics, death wasn't some dark unknown to be avoided or feared. It was a natural and inevitable part of life, as ordinary as the rising and setting of the sun. Seneca once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In other words, the fear of death often keeps us from fully embracing life, trapping us in a cycle of avoidance and anxiety rather than gratitude and action. Think about it. How much of modern life is shaped by the fear of mortality? We avoid conversations about aging, push aside thoughts about the future, and sometimes cling to routines that feel safe, all in an effort to delay or distract ourselves from the reality that time is finite. But the Stoics took a radically different approach. They believed that by coming to terms with death, we could not only live a life free from fear, but also learn to live more fully, more intentionally, and with a deeper appreciation for the present. Reframing our fear of death begins with seeing it not as an end, but as a reminder. The Stoics often practiced a mental exercise called memento mori, which means remember you must die. This isn't about being morbid or dwelling on the inevitable. It's about using the awareness of death as a tool to focus on what truly matters. Imagine how your perspective might shift if, instead of fearing the loss of time, you used it as motivation to cherish each moment. Every conversation, every experience, every ordinary day becomes an opportunity, an irreplaceable piece of a life that is happening now, not someday in the future. To put this into practice, consider how you might reframe the fear of loss into gratitude for what you've already been given. Perhaps you fear losing a loved one or dread the thought of your own life coming to an end. The Stoics would encourage you to see these fears as an invitation to embrace the present. Rather than worrying about how much time you have left with someone, focus on appreciating the time you have right now. Instead of being haunted by the thought of your own mortality, ask yourself, how can I make the most of the breath I'm taking in this very moment? Here's a question to reflect on. If you weren't afraid of death, how differently would you live? Would you spend less time procrastinating or holding grudges? Would you let go of petty worries and focus instead on meaningful connections and pursuits? By confronting the inevitability of death, the Stoics believed we could strip it of its power, transforming what might feel like a limitation into a call to embrace life more fully. Seneca put it beautifully when he said, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." In other words, it's only when we stop running from the concept of mortality that we can begin to live with purpose and courage. So rather than seeing death as an enemy, try to see it as a reminder to live well, to live deeply, and to focus on what truly matters. Death is not something to be feared. It is something to understand so we can live without regret. Have you ever scrolled through social media and felt a twinge of envy? Maybe it was seeing someone's vacation photos from an exotic destination, a picture-perfect family moment, or a post about a career milestone that left you wondering why your own life doesn't measure up. In a world where people often display the best versions of themselves online, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison. But here's the thing. This constant comparison doesn't lead to happiness or fulfillment. It leads to dissatisfaction, frustration, and even a sense of inadequacy. The Stoics understood this all too well, and they had a powerful antidote: focus inward and let go of comparing yourself to others. Epictetus once said, "It is not what you possess, but how you value it that determines whether you feel envy." This is a profound observation because it points to the real root of envy. It's not about what others have, but about what we choose to prioritize and value. When we envy someone else's success or lifestyle, we're essentially saying that those external things define a person's worth. But the Stoics teach us that true worth is found within, in our character, choices, and actions, not in the external markers of status or wealth. Let's break this down with a relatable example. Imagine two people. One has a high-paying corporate job with a luxurious lifestyle, while the other has a modest career but pursues their passion for art in their free time. The corporate employee might appear to have it all on the surface, but they could feel deeply unfulfilled if their work doesn't align with their values. Meanwhile, the artist might live simply but find genuine happiness in self-expression and creativity. If the artist were to compare themselves to the corporate employee solely in terms of salary or material possessions, they might feel envious. But if they focused instead on their own growth and what truly matters to them, they'd recognize that their life is already rich in meaning. The question then becomes, what do you value? Many of us envy others not because we actually want what they have, but because we've been conditioned to believe those things, money, prestige, or an idealized lifestyle, are what we should want. The Stoics challenge us to rethink this entirely. Instead of looking outward and measuring ourselves against others, they encourage us to look inward and ask, am I living in accordance with my values? Am I growing as a person? Am I focusing on the things I can control? These are the metrics that truly matter. Reflect on this for a moment. How much of your energy is spent comparing your life to someone else's? Maybe you've measured your career against a colleague's, your body against an influencer's, or your relationship against a picture-perfect couple online. And what has that brought you? Likely, it hasn't brought you peace or progress. It's only distracted you from focusing on your own journey. To move away from envy, start by redefining success on your own terms. Consider what brings you fulfillment, not what society or others tell you should make you happy. Practice gratitude for what you already have and the progress you've made, however small it may seem. And the next time you catch yourself comparing, pause and ask, Is this comparison helping me grow, or is it pulling me further from the life I want to lead? The key, as the Stoics teach, is to value the right things, strengthen your inner world, your character, your virtues, your ability to navigate life with resilience and purpose. That's where true contentment lies. When we let go of envy and comparison, we free ourselves to focus on what really matters, becoming the best version of ourselves, not a lesser version of someone else. How often do you let anger, fear, or frustration take over your day? Maybe it starts with something small, like a coworker speaking to you in an abrupt tone during a meeting. At first, you feel a flash of irritation, but instead of letting it go, you replay the moment in your head over and over. By lunchtime, you're still stewing, and by the time you get home, those negative feelings have snowballed, affecting how you speak to your family or unwind in the evening. It might sound familiar because negative emotions, when left unchecked, can quickly take control of our minds and actions. But the Stoics offered a way out of this cycle, a way to master our emotions instead of being mastered by them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This teaching lies at the heart of Stoic emotional resilience. The Stoics didn't teach us to suppress or ignore emotions. That's a common misconception. Instead, they emphasized understanding and managing them through rational thought. They believed that emotions like anger or fear don't arise from the events themselves, but from the judgments we attach to those events. In other words, it's not what happens to us that determines how we feel, it's how we interpret and respond to those experiences. Let's go back to that example of your coworker. When they spoke to you abruptly in the meeting, perhaps your initial reaction was to assume it was directed at you personally. Maybe you thought, they don't respect me, or they're trying to make me look bad. But what if you paused and challenged those thoughts instead of letting them fester? What if their tone wasn't about you at all? Maybe they were stressed about a deadline or distracted by a personal issue. By questioning your assumptions and reframing the situation, you can stop the anger from spiraling out of control. This is the rational thought process. The Stoics encouraged a deliberate pause to evaluate the reality of a situation before letting emotions take the reins. The beauty of this practice is that it applies to all kinds of negative emotions, from annoyance to fear. Take fear, for instance. The next time you're feeling anxious about a future event, a job interview, or an important conversation, ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? Often, you'll realize that the worst-case scenario isn't as catastrophic as your imagination is making it out to be. And even if it is, the Stoics remind us that many challenges are within our ability to endure and overcome. Seneca put it perfectly, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By grounding yourself in rational thought, you can calm those fears and approach the situation with clarity and confidence. This doesn't mean you won't ever feel anger or fear again. Of course you will. The Stoics didn't aim to eliminate emotions, but to teach us not to be ruled by them. They believed that our emotions should serve us as signals or tools, not as dictators of our actions. By practicing awareness and rationality, we can redirect our emotions toward constructive outcomes. For example, if you're feeling anger, channel that energy into solving the problem at hand, rather than lashing out or dwelling on the insult. If you're feeling fear, let it motivate you to prepare better rather than paralyze you. So, here's something to reflect on. How often do your negative emotions dictate your actions or ruin your day? And how might things change if you took a step back, examined your thoughts, and reframed the situation? The Stoics remind us that we always have a choice. We can let anger, fear, or frustration control us, or we can choose to respond with reason and intention. By mastering our emotions, we reclaim our power, our peace of mind, and ultimately the quality of our lives. Seneca once said, While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? How often do we catch ourselves saying, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'll do it when I feel ready," as if tomorrow is guaranteed or readiness will magically arrive. The truth is, procrastination is one of the most subtle ways we waste our lives. It disguises itself as harmless, a little delay here, a quick distraction there, but over time, it steals opportunities we can never get back. The Stoics understood this deeply, which is why they urged us to act decisively and make the most of each moment. From the Stoic perspective, procrastination isn't just about putting off tasks, it's about failing to live fully in the present. Every delay, every excuse, every moment spent hesitating is a moment we could have used to move closer to our goals, grow as individuals, or create something meaningful. The Stoics believed that our time on this earth is limited, and because of that, every second matters. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this often, writing, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. This isn't meant to be a grim warning, but a call to action, a reminder that the only time we truly have is the present moment. Let's think of a practical example. Have you ever set a personal goal? Maybe it's learning a new skill, starting a fitness routine, or working on a creative project but kept putting it off. You tell yourself you'll begin next week, after the holidays, or when life feels less busy. But weeks turn into months, and months turn into years, and before you know it, the opportunity has slipped away, leaving you with regret instead of progress. The Stoics would urge you to stop waiting for the perfect time. According to them, the perfect time is now. Procrastination often stems from fear, a fear of failure, fear of discomfort, or even fear of success. But the Stoics taught us to confront those fears directly. They believed in taking bold, disciplined action, even when it's uncomfortable. Epictetus put it clearly, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. It's a simple formula. Decide what matters to you and then act. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Because every delay is a missed opportunity to grow into the person you want to become. Here's something to consider. What have you been putting off unnecessarily? Is it a big life change, like pursuing a dream career or building stronger relationships? Or is it something smaller yet meaningful, like making time to exercise or read more? Whatever it is, ask yourself this: what's stopping you from starting right now? Waiting for the right moment is often just an excuse. The Stoics would remind us that circumstances are rarely perfect, and readiness often comes not before action but through it. Procrastination isn't just about wasting time, it's about wasting potential. If there's one thing the Stoics teach us about life, it's this: use the time you have wisely, because it can never be replaced. Take that first step, however small it may seem, and keep moving forward. As Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. So, what's one thing you can start doing today, this very moment, that you've been putting off? The answer might just be the key to taking control of your time and unlocking your fullest potential. How much is enough? It's a question that feels easy to brush aside in a world that constantly tells us we need more. More money, more possessions, more status symbols. There's always a new phone to buy, a bigger house to aim for, or the latest gadget promising to make life better. But here's where the Stoics challenge us: is the endless chase for material possessions truly adding value to your life? Or is it pulling you further from the things that actually matter? Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This simple insight cuts straight to the heart of the Stoic rejection of materialism. The Stoics believed that chasing after material possessions often leaves us trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction. You get something you thought would make you happy, but that satisfaction fades quickly. Then you're off to pursue the next thing, convinced it will bring the contentment you're missing. But does it ever? The Stoics remind us that true wealth isn't about accumulating things. It's about cultivating inner peace, gratitude, and self-sufficiency. Think about a modern example, the relentless pursuit of the latest smartphone. Every year, a new model is released with incremental upgrades, slightly better cameras, faster processors, a sleeker design. If you already have a functioning phone, do you really need the latest one? Probably not. But the marketing convinces you otherwise, promising that this new version will somehow improve your life. So you spend the money only to find that within a few months the novelty has worn off and you're back to feeling the same as you did before. This isn't just about phones, it could be luxury cars, designer clothes, or a bigger house. The specifics change, but the pattern remains the same, chasing things in the hopes they'll fill an inner void. The Stoics would argue that this endless pursuit is a distraction, a way of avoiding the deeper work of cultivating inner contentment. Seneca warned against the trap of materialism when he said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In other words, wealth isn't about how much you have, it's about how satisfied you are with what you already have. When you're constantly looking outside yourself for happiness, you'll always feel a sense of lack. But when you learn to value what you already possess, your health, your relationships, your time, your inner growth, you discover a richness that no amount of money can buy. Take a moment to reflect how much of your energy is spent striving for things, not necessities but extras, the shiny objects that promise to make life better. And now ask yourself, has the pursuit of those things brought you lasting happiness, or has it left you wanting more? The Stoics encourage us to flip this equation. Instead of placing value on things, place value on virtues, on wisdom, kindness, resilience, and self-control, because unlike possessions, these are things no one can take from you. They grow with you, strengthen you, and bring true satisfaction. This doesn't mean you should give up all material things and live a life of complete austerity. The Stoics weren't against enjoying life's comforts, but they believed those comforts should never own you or define your sense of worth. The next time you're tempted by the latest trend or status symbol, pause and ask yourself, will this truly make me happier, or am I just trying to fill a void that no material thing can ever satisfy? True wealth isn't found in a store or a bank account. It's found in cultivating inner peace, gratitude, and a life aligned with your values. As Epictetus taught, he who is rich is content with what is sufficient. So, is the endless pursuit of more really worth your time? Or could you be focusing on building a wealth that lasts, a wealth that comes from within? Grudges harm you more than the other person. Think about it. How often do we replay an argument in our minds, hold on to resentment for a perceived slight, or let bitterness linger for weeks, months, or even years? But while we're stuck in this cycle of negative emotion, the person we're angry at might not even realize the impact they've had, or worse, might not care. The Stoics believed that holding on to grudges is one of the most harmful ways we can drain our energy and waste the precious time we have. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations reminded himself, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. What he meant by this is simple. When you allow resentment to take root, you're giving your power away. You're letting someone else's actions dictate your emotions and mental state. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying that negative energy. When you hold onto a grudge, you're the one who suffers the most. It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person will feel the effects. Imagine this scenario. You have a close friend, but a misunderstanding escalates into a heated argument. Harsh words are exchanged, and even though weeks pass, you can't stop thinking about how they wronged you. You replay the conversation in your mind, each time feeling the same anger and frustration as if it just happened. Meanwhile, your friend might have moved on, or perhaps they're also waiting for you to reach out and make amends. In either case, your grudge is keeping you stuck, emotionally trapped in a moment that's already in the past. You're not punishing them, you're punishing yourself. The Stoics encourage us to focus on what we can control, and here's the truth. You can't control the actions of others, but you can control how you respond. By letting go of resentment, you're not condoning what happened. You're simply choosing not to let it dominate your thoughts and steal your peace of mind. Instead, redirect that energy toward things that actually matter: your growth, your goals, and your relationships with those who uplift and support you. So how do we release a grudge? One practical way is to reframe the situation. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that people act according to their own perspectives and limitations. He wrote, "Whenever someone has done wrong by you, immediately consider what notion of good or evil they had in doing it." In other words, many of the conflicts we face come down to misunderstanding, ignorance, or different values, not malicious intent. By recognizing this, we can approach the situation with more understanding and less bitterness. Now, ask yourself, are there any grudges you're holding onto right now? Maybe it's a family member who said something hurtful, a co-worker who undervalued your contribution, or a friend who let you down. How does holding onto that resentment make you feel? Does it add to your life, or does it weigh you down? What would happen if you chose to let it go, not for them but for your own peace? The Stoics teach us that life is too short and too unpredictable to waste on carrying grudges. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength. It's taking back control of your time, your energy, and your emotions. By letting go of resentment, we create space for more meaningful pursuits and for relationships that bring joy and connection. So, as Marcus Aurelius would encourage, focus on your own path and leave the unnecessary weight behind. What's holding you back from doing exactly that? Not everything is yours to control. It's a simple and liberating truth, but how often do we forget it? How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to bend the world to our will, only to end up frustrated, disappointed, or stressed? The Stoics believed that one of the greatest sources of human suffering is our attempt to control things that are, by nature, beyond our influence. Epictetus summed this up with his famous dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us and some things are not. Recognizing this distinction is key to freeing ourselves from unnecessary anxiety and focusing our energy where it truly matters. Let's break this down. According to Epictetus, the things that are within our control are limited to our own thoughts, actions, and reactions, essentially, our inner world. On the other hand, everything else, external events, the opinions of others, the outcomes of our efforts, falls outside of our control. When we focus on mastering what's within, we free ourselves from being held hostage by the unpredictable and uncontrollable nature of the external world. Picture this: you're working on a big project at work, and you're pouring all of your time and energy into making it perfect. You meticulously plan every detail, staying late at the office and sacrificing your personal time. But when the day comes to present it, your boss gives lukewarm feedback and tells you to make changes, or maybe the project doesn't perform as well as you hoped. You feel crushed. In this moment, it's easy to spiral into frustration or self-doubt, fixating on what went wrong and wondering why your efforts didn't guarantee success. But here's where the Stoics would step in. They would remind you that while the effort you put into the project was within your control, the outcome wasn't. Your boss's reaction, the market's response, the decisions of others, these are all external events. And no matter how hard you work, you can't dictate how others will think or act. What you can control is how you respond. Instead of seeing the feedback or results as a failure, you could choose to see them as an opportunity to learn, grow, and refine your skills. By letting go of the need to control the outcome, you can focus on doing your best work without tying your sense of worth to results that are beyond your influence. The same principle applies to relationships. How often do we try to control how others feel about us? Maybe you've gone out of your way to win someone's approval or adjust your behavior to make someone like you, only to realize that their opinion remains unchanged. The Stoics remind us that this is wasted effort. Other people's feelings and judgments are theirs to own, not yours to control. What you can do is lead with integrity, respect, and kindness, knowing you've done your part. The rest is out of your hands. This mindset isn't about giving up or being passive. It's about learning where to direct your energy. When you let go of trying to control the uncontrollable, you stop wasting time on things that don't serve you. This, in turn, creates the mental space and clarity to focus on what actually does: your values, your decisions, and the way you show up in the world. So take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you holding on too tightly? Is it in your career, your relationships, or even your personal goals? What would happen if you let go of the need to control the outcome and instead focused your time and energy on being the best version of yourself? As the Stoics teach us, peace of mind comes not from controlling the chaos around us, but from mastering the calm within. Let that be your focus and watch how much lighter life feels when you finally let go. How much time do we waste talking about things that don't matter? Whether it's indulging in gossip about a coworker, speculating on a celebrity scandal, or making small talk about someone else's decisions, we often find ourselves caught up in conversations that add little, or worse, detract from our lives. The Stoics were deeply critical of idle talk and gossip, seeing it as not only a waste of time but also as a distraction from more meaningful pursuits. Seneca put it bluntly: the mind is never exercised by idle talk, it is made for better things. His words challenge us to reflect on how we use our voices and what we allow to occupy our minds in the process. Let's consider a modern example: office gossip. Imagine you're in the break room and a group of colleagues starts chatting about a coworker who's recently been promoted. The conversation quickly shifts from congratulating them to speculating about how they got the promotion, whether they deserved it, who they might have impressed, or even personal details about their life outside of work. It's tempting to join in, isn't it? To contribute your 2 cents, feel included, or let out any frustration you might be harboring. But what does gossiping really achieve? It breeds negativity, undermines trust, and shifts your focus away from your own growth and goals, all while accomplishing absolutely nothing productive. The Stoics believed that our words hold power, and with that power comes responsibility. They encouraged us to ask ourselves, is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then perhaps it's better left unsaid. Speaking without purpose, whether it's indulging in gossip or filling silence with trivial chatter, does nothing to strengthen our character or improve our relationships. Instead, it often leaves us feeling more empty, disconnected, or even regretful after the fact. But this doesn't mean the Stoics advocated for silence or isolation. Quite the contrary, they valued meaningful communication, conversations that enhance understanding, build deeper connections, or contribute positively to the world around us. For example, imagine replacing idle office gossip with a constructive conversation about career growth. Instead of speculating about your colleague's promotion, why not ask them directly what strategies or approaches they use to succeed? This shifts the focus from judgment to learning, offering a productive exchange that benefits everyone involved. Another important insight from the Stoics is that idle talk often reflects a deeper issue: our discomfort with silence. Many of us feel the need to fill every pause or quiet moment with words, fearing that silence might seem awkward or unproductive. But silence, as the Stoics remind us, can be incredibly valuable. It creates the space for reflection, clarity, and mindfulness. Marcus Aurelius often praised the practice of careful, deliberate speech, encouraging us to think before we speak and to choose words that align with our values and intentions. So, here's something to think about. How often do you find yourself engaging in conversations that serve no real purpose? Are you speaking out of habit, out of discomfort with silence, or simply to feel included? And what would happen if you decided to bring more intention to your words? What if, instead of gossip or trivial chatter, you focused on building others up, exchanging ideas, or simply listening more? The Stoics remind us that our time and energy are finite. Every moment spent in meaningless talk is a moment we could have used to grow, learn, or connect in a deeper way. By choosing our words carefully and focusing on meaningful communication, we honor not only ourselves but also the people we interact with. So, the next time you're tempted to gossip or engage in idle chatter, pause and ask yourself, is this conversation building something worthwhile, or is it just noise? Because in the end, the quality of your conversations reflects the quality of your mind and your life. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to revisit the 10 key things Stoics refuse to waste their time on. These principles aren't just about saving hours in a day. They reflect a deeper commitment to living with focus, intention, and purpose. From letting go of the past and accepting what you cannot control, to mastering emotions and avoiding the endless pursuit of material possessions, the Stoics teach us to prioritize what truly matters. They remind us not to squander our energy on other people's opinions, meaningless gossip, or holding grudges. Instead, the goal is to direct our time and attention toward building inner strength, cultivating gratitude, and making each moment count. At the heart of all these lessons is a respect for the value of time. The Stoics believed that how we choose to spend our moments defines the quality of our lives. Seneca warned us of this when he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And isn't that the ultimate takeaway? That we have more power over our lives than we often realize, if we can only commit to living intentionally and focusing on what we can control. Now, think about your own life for a moment. Which of these 10 things resonates with you the most? Do you find yourself caught up in comparing your life to others or dwelling on past mistakes? Are you holding on to grudges that do nothing but weigh you down, or maybe chasing external validation instead of nurturing your inner self? Recognizing where you struggle is the first step toward change, and the Stoics offer a toolkit for doing just that. Remember, this isn't about achieving perfection, it's about progress. Small, consistent steps in the right direction can lead to a more peaceful and purposeful life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." Be one. It's a powerful call to action that pushes us to stop overthinking and start doing. You already have what it takes to embrace these principles, to let go of what doesn't serve you, and to focus on building a life aligned with your values. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one area from today's list that you struggle with and commit to working on it. Maybe it's practicing forgiveness, letting go of envy, or resisting the urge to control things that are outside your influence. Whatever it is, take one small, intentional step today toward adopting a Stoic mindset. And as you reflect on this, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 10 principles do you find most challenging, and how do you plan to apply Stoic wisdom in your daily life? Let's start a conversation in the comments below. Your thoughts might just inspire someone else on their journey. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more insights on intentional living and Stoic philosophy. Let's continue this journey together. Remember, your time is your most valuable asset. Spend it wisely. Thanks for watching, and until next time, live with